The dust kicked up beneath Sara Bennett's worn boots as she stumbled through the streets of Hot Springs, New Mexico territory. Her vision blurring with tears and exhaustion as she clutched the crumpled piece of paper the last doctor had shoved into her trembling hands before slamming the door in her face. The afternoon sun beat down mercilessly on the small frontier town in this summer of 1878, and Sara had knocked on every door that might offer help, begged every merchant who might extend credit, pleaded with anyone who would listen about her mother lying in their tiny room above the saloon, burning with fever and slipping further away with each passing hour. The paper in her hand listed medicines her mother needed, medicines that might as well have been made of gold dust for all the good they did Sara, who had exactly 4 cents to her name and no prospects of getting more. She had been 19 years old for exactly 3 weeks, and the small cake her mother had managed to bake for her felt like it had happened in another lifetime, though it had only been 21 days ago. Her mother, Elizabeth Bennett, had been healthy then, smiling, full of the fierce determination that had carried them across half the country after Sara's father died in a mine collapse back in Colorado. They had come to Hot Springs seeking a fresh start, hoping the town's natural warm springs and growing population would offer opportunities for 2 women alone in the world. Instead, her mother had fallen ill just 2 weeks after their arrival, and the little money they had saved had gone to paying for their room and barely enough food to survive. Sara had tried to find work, but the respectable establishments would not hire a young woman without references, and the less respectable ones had made offers that turned her stomach. Her mother had always told her to keep her dignity no matter how hard times got, and Sara had honored that, but now she wondered if pride was worth watching her mother die. The general store loomed ahead, and Sara knew this was her last chance. She had been there twice before, and Mr. Henderson had refused her both times, but perhaps if she explained more clearly, if she could make him understand the desperation of her situation, he might relent. Her hands shook as she pushed open the door, the little bell above jingling cheerfully, a sound at odds with the dread pooling in her stomach. Mr. Henderson looked up from behind his counter, his expression souring the moment he recognized her. "Miss Bennett, I already told you twice that I cannot extend credit. This is a business, not a charity." "Please," Sara said, her voice breaking despite her efforts to sound composed. "My mother is dying. The fever is getting worse, and without these medicines, she will not last another day. I am begging you, sir. I will work off every penny. I will scrub floors, wash dishes, anything you need. I do not need help, and I do not give credit to people with no means to pay," Mr. Henderson said flatly. "Now please leave before you upset my other customers." Sara looked around the store desperately and realized there were no other customers, just empty aisles and the overwhelming smell of dried goods and leather. "I am not asking for charity. I am asking for mercy. My mother is a good woman, and she does not deserve to die because we do not have money." "Lots of good people die every day," Mr. Henderson said, his voice softening just slightly, though his resolve remained firm. "That is the way of the world, and I am sorry for your troubles, but I cannot help you." Sara felt something inside her crack, and suddenly she was on her knees in front of the counter, the paper clutched in both hands, held up toward the merchant like an offering. "Please," she sobbed, all dignity abandoned in the face of desperation. "Please, I am begging you. These medicines, just these few things, and I swear on my life I will repay you. I will do anything. Please do not let my mother die when something could be done to save her." Mr. Henderson's face reddened, and he looked away, clearly uncomfortable with the display before him. "Get up, Miss Bennett. You are making a scene." "There is no one here to see," Sara cried, tears streaming down her face. "Please, have you no heart at all? Have you never loved anyone enough to beg for their life?" The bell above the door jingled, and Sara heard boots on the wooden floor, but she could not stop, could not pull herself together, could only kneel there with her heart breaking and her mother dying and no hope left in the world. She buried her face in her hands, her shoulders shaking with sobs that came from somewhere so deep inside her that they hurt. "What seems to be the problem here?" The voice was deep and warm, with a slight drawl that marked the speaker as someone who had spent time in Texas, or perhaps further south. Sara could not bring herself to look up, humiliation flooding through her now that someone had witnessed her degradation. She tried to stand, but her legs would not cooperate, weakened by 3 days of barely eating and the emotional toll of watching her mother suffer. "Nothing that concerns you, Mr. Reed," Henderson said quickly. "Just a young woman who does not understand how business works." "Looks like more than that to me," the man said, and Sara felt a gentle hand on her elbow, helping her to her feet with a steadiness that steadied her shaking legs. "Easy now, miss. Take your time." Sara finally looked up and found herself staring into the kindest eyes she had ever seen, a warm brown that reminded her of honey in sunlight. The man was tall, probably in his mid-20s, with sun-darkened skin and dark hair that curled slightly at his collar. He wore the practical clothes of a working cowboy, his hat pushed back on his head, and there was something in his face that spoke of genuine concern rather than mere curiosity. "I am sorry," Sara whispered, trying to pull away, but her legs buckled again, and the man steadied her with surprising gentleness. "Nothing to apologize for," he said quietly. He glanced at the paper still clutched in her hand. "What is that you are holding?" Sara looked down at the crumpled list, now stained with her tears. "Medicines. For my mother. She has a fever and the doctor said these might help, but I cannot afford them and Mr. Henderson will not extend credit and I do not know what else to do." The man gently took the paper from her hand, smoothing it out to read the list. His jaw tightened as he scanned the items, and then he looked at Henderson with an expression that made the merchant take a step back. "These are the medicines she needs." The man asked Sara, his voice still gentle despite the steel in his eyes. "Yes, sir. The doctor said they might bring the fever down, might give her a chance." "Might." The man's attention snapped back to Henderson. "Where is this doctor, doctor?" "Murray has his office 2 streets over," Henderson said nervously. "But I do not see what business it is of yours, Mr. Reed." "Samuel Reed," the man said, extending his hand to Sara. "Most folks call me Sam, and it is my business because I am making it my business. You got family in town, miss?" "Sara Bennett," she replied automatically, taking his hand. His grip was warm and strong, calloused from hard work but gentle in its pressure. "No family except my mother. We only arrived in Hot Springs a few weeks ago." Sam nodded, his expression thoughtful. He turned back to Henderson. "Gather everything on this list. I will pay for it." Sara gasped. "No, I cannot let you do that. I do not even know you." "You do now," Sam said simply. "And your mother needs medicine. No sense in arguing about it when time matters." "But I have no way to repay you," Sara protested, even as hope flared in her chest for the first time in days. "We will figure that out later," Sam said. He looked at Henderson, who had not moved. "Did you hear me? Gather the medicines." Henderson hesitated. "These items will cost nearly $15. Then I will pay you $15, Sam said, his patience clearly wearing thin. "Move, man. A woman is dying." The merchant finally sprang into action, moving through his store to gather bottles and packets while Sara stood frozen, unable to process what was happening. Sam guided her to a chair near the counter, pressing her down gently when she tried to protest. "Sit before you fall down," he said. "When did you last eat?" "I do not remember," Sara admitted. "Yesterday morning, I think. Maybe the day before. I have been trying to find help." Sam's expression darkened, but his voice remained gentle. "Henderson, add some bread, cheese, and dried meat to that order. And some apples if you have them fresh." "Mr. Reed, I cannot accept charity," Sara said desperately. "I have my pride." "Pride does not fill empty stomachs," Sam replied, crouching down so he was at eye level with her. "Listen to me, Miss Bennett. Your mother is sick, and you are running yourself into the ground trying to help her. There is no shame in accepting help when you need it. Fact is, it takes more courage to accept help than to refuse it out of stubborn pride." Sara felt fresh tears sliding down her cheeks, but these were different from the ones before. These came from relief, from the overwhelming feeling of not being alone anymore, even if just for this moment. "Why are you doing this? You do not know us." Sam was quiet for a moment, his eyes distant. "Few years back, my mother took sick. We lived on a ranch far from any town, and by the time we got her to a doctor, it was too late. I spent a long time wishing someone had been there to help us, wishing we had not been so alone. I reckon if I can help someone else now, maybe it balances things out a little." "I am so sorry about your mother," Sara said softly. "Me too," Sam replied. "Which is why I am not going to let yours die if there is something I can do about it." He stood as Henderson returned with a crate full of bottles and packages. Sam examined the contents, checking them against the list before nodding. "This everything?" "Yes, though I still say this is highly irregular," Henderson muttered. Sam ignored him, counting out bills from a worn leather wallet. Sara watched, stunned by the amount of money he carried so casually. He added extra for the food, then hefted the crate easily. "Can you walk, Miss Bennett?" "Yes," Sara said, standing on legs that felt steadier now. "But Mr. Reed, I must find a way to repay you." "First things first," Sam said. "Let's get this medicine to your mother, then I am bringing the doctor myself to make sure she gets proper care." Sara's breath caught. Dr. Murray refused to come. "He said he wanted payment up front, and I could not give it." Sam's expression turned grim. "We will see about that. Show me where you are staying." Sara led him out of the store and down the dusty street toward the saloon, acutely aware of the looks they were getting from passers-by. A respectable young woman did not usually walk with a strange man, but Sara found she did not care what anyone thought. Sam Reed had shown her more kindness in 10 minutes than anyone in this town had shown in 2 weeks. The saloon was called the Silver Spur, and it was not as rough as some Sara had seen. But it was still not a place she would have chosen to stay if they had any alternative. The owner, a gruff man named Garrett, had at least been willing to rent them a room when no one else would take in 2 women alone. Sara led Sam up the back stairs to avoid going through the main room, where men drank and gambled even in the afternoon. The room was small and stuffy, with just enough space for 2 narrow beds and a washstand. Elizabeth Bennett lay on the bed nearest the window, her face flushed with fever, her breathing shallow and rapid. She was 43 years old but looked much older in her illness, her once vibrant auburn hair now limp with sweat. "Mama," Sara said softly, rushing to her mother's side. "Mama, I have the medicine, and I brought help." Elizabeth's eyes fluttered open, glassy with fever. "Sara, I told you not to spend money. We need that for food." "Hush now," Sara said, smoothing her mother's damp hair back from her forehead. "This is Mr. Reed. He helped me." Sam set the crate down on the washstand and moved to the bedside with practiced ease. He pressed the back of his hand to Elizabeth's forehead, his expression grave. "How long has she had this fever?" "4 days now," Sara said. "It started mild but has gotten worse. She has chills that turn to sweats and she barely keeps down any water. We need that doctor, Sam said firmly. He pulled out several bottles from the crate, reading labels quickly. Do you know how to mix these? Dr. Murray wrote instructions, Sara said, pulling out another crumpled paper from her pocket. Sam scanned it quickly. I will stay with your mother while you go to the spring house and fetch cold water. We need to bring this fever down. Then I am going to have words with Dr. Murray. Sara wanted to protest that he had done enough, that she could not impose further on his kindness. But one look at her mother's flushed face silenced her objections. She grabbed the water bucket and hurried down the back stairs, running to the spring house at the edge of town, where clean, cold water flowed from the natural hot springs that had been diverted and cooled. When she returned, Sam had propped her mother up slightly and was speaking to her in low, calm tones, keeping her focused and awake. He looked up as Sara entered. Good. Pour some of that into the basin and we will get cool cloths on her. Then mix this powder into a cup of water. The instructions say 1 teaspoon stirred until dissolved. Sara followed his directions, grateful for his calm competence. Together they worked to cool Elizabeth down and get the first dose of medicine into her. It was difficult, as Elizabeth could barely swallow, but Sam was patient, taking his time and encouraging her gently until she managed to drink most of the mixture. That is good, Mrs. Bennett, he said warmly. You are doing real good. Now you rest while I go fetch the doctor. Sara will stay right here with you. Elizabeth's hand shot out with surprising strength, grasping Sam's sleeve. Cannot pay, she whispered hoarsely. Already taken care of, Sam said gently. You just focus on getting better. Why? Elizabeth asked, the single word carrying a lifetime of suspicion earned from hard experience. Sam was quiet for a moment, then said simply, Because it is the right thing to do, madam, and because your daughter loves you enough to get on her knees and beg strangers for help. That kind of love deserves respect. Elizabeth's eyes filled with tears, and she released his sleeve, her hand falling back to the bed. Sam stood and turned to Sara. Keep the cool cloths on her forehead and wrists. If she can take more water, give it to her slowly. I will be back with the doctor within the hour. Mr. Reid, Sara said, following him to the door. I do not know how to thank you. No need for thanks, Sam said. Just take care of your mama. He left before Sara could say anything else, his boots echoing on the stairs as he descended. Sara returned to her mother's side, dipping the cloth in cool water and laying it gently across her forehead. He is a good man, Elizabeth whispered. Yes, Mama, he is. Pretty too, her mother added, and despite everything, Sara felt her cheeks warm. Mama, please save your strength. Not too sick to see how you looked at him, Elizabeth said, a ghost of her old teasing tone in her voice. And how he looked at you. He looked at me like a person in need of help, Sara said firmly. Nothing more. We will see, her mother murmured, her eyes drifting closed. Sara sat beside the bed, refreshing the cool cloths and praying that the medicine would work, that Sam would return with the doctor, that somehow her mother would survive this. The room was quiet except for Elizabeth's labored breathing and the distant sounds of the saloon below. Sara found her thoughts drifting to the cowboy who had appeared like an answer to a prayer she had almost stopped believing would be heard. True to his word, Sam returned within the hour, and Sara heard his voice on the stairs before she saw him, speaking firmly to someone who was protesting. I do not care what your policy is, Dr. Murray. A woman is dying and you have the skills to help her. Now you are going up these stairs if I have to carry you. This is highly improper, Mr. Reid. I run a professional practice, not a charity. And I am a paying customer asking for your services, Sam said, his voice hard as iron. I have already purchased the medicines you prescribed. Now you are going to examine your patient and provide proper care. Here is $20 as payment. Is that sufficient?" There was a moment of stunned silence then. That is more than sufficient. Why did the daughter not mention she had funds? Because she did not have them. I do, and I am paying for your services. Now move. The door opened, and Sam entered, followed by a thin, gray-haired man carrying a black medical bag. Dr. Murray's expression was sour, but he moved to Elizabeth's bedside with professional efficiency, beginning his examination without comment. Sara stood back, wringing her hands as the doctor listened to her mother's heart and lungs, checked her pulse, and examined her eyes and throat. Sam stood beside Sara, his presence solid and reassuring. "She has pneumonia," Dr. Murray announced finally. "The fever is from the infection in her lungs. The medicines will help, but she needs constant care. Cool cloths for the fever, the powdered medicine every 4 hours, and this tonic twice daily. She must drink as much water as she can manage, even if she does not want it. And she needs to eat, even if just broth. Her body cannot fight this without fuel." "I will make sure she gets everything she needs," Sara said quickly. Dr. Murray looked at her skeptically. "It will require someone with her day and night. Can you manage that?" "I will not leave her side," Sara promised. The doctor nodded, leaving additional instructions and checking the medicines Sam had purchased. He provided a few additional items from his bag, including a stronger fever reducer, and demonstrated how to prepare each treatment. Finally, he straightened and closed his bag. "She has a chance now, at least, but the next few days will be critical. If the fever does not break or if her breathing becomes more labored, send for me immediately." "Thank you, doctor," Sam said, escorting him to the door after Dr. Murray left. Sam returned and pulled a small table close to the bedside, arranging all the medicines in a neat row. "Do you understand all the instructions?" "I think so," Sara said, though her head was spinning. Sam sat down and went through everything again, more slowly this time, making notes on a piece of paper about when each medicine should be given. "I will come back this evening to check on you both. Do you have money for food, Mr. Reed? You have already done so much," Sara protested. "That was not what I asked," Sam said patiently. "Do you have money for food?" Sara looked down at her hands. "A few cents." Sam pulled out his wallet again, and Sara quickly put her hand over his. "Please, I cannot take more from you. I already owe you so much." "You do not owe me anything," Sam said gently. "And your mother needs food." "Broth," the doctor said. "Can you make that here? The saloon has a kitchen. Mr. Garrett lets me use it sometimes if I help with washing dishes." "Good, I will speak to Garrett about getting you what you need." He pressed several bills into her hand despite her protests. "This is not charity. Consider it a loan if that makes you feel better, but your mother needs care and you need food. Those are facts that do not change no matter how stubborn your pride is." Sara felt tears threatening again. "Why are you being so kind to us?" Sam was quiet for a long moment, his eyes distant. "I told you about my mother. What I did not tell you is that after she died, my father fell apart. I was 17, trying to hold our ranch together, and I was so angry at the world. Angry that no one had helped us. Angry that we had been alone when we needed help most. An old rancher named Tom Whitfield found me one day, half-starved and trying to do the work of 3 men. He fed me, helped me get the ranch back in order, and never asked for anything in return. When I tried to pay him back, he said, 'Pass it on, kid. When you see someone who needs help, you help them. That is how we survive out here, by taking care of each other.'" He looked back at Sara, his eyes intense. "I have been passing it on ever since, and today you needed help. Simple as that." Sara felt something shift in her chest, a warmth that had nothing to do with the stuffy room. "I will pay you back, I promise. Every cent." "I know you will," Sam said, standing, "because you are someone who keeps their promises. I can see that. Now I am going to talk to Garrett about that broth, and then I need to get back to work. I will return this evening to check on you both." "What work do you do, Mr. Reed?" Sara asked, realizing she knew almost nothing about this man who had changed everything. "Call me Sam, please." "And I work at the Double R Ranch about 5 miles outside town. We raise cattle and horses. It is good work, honest work." "Do you live on the ranch?" "I have a small house there, yes. Been working for the Reynolds family for about 3 years now. They are good people." He moved toward the door, then paused. "You going to be all right here alone?" "Yes," Sara said, more confidently than she felt. "Thank you, Sam, for everything." He nodded and left, and Sara returned to her mother's side. Elizabeth was sleeping now, her breathing still labored but perhaps slightly easier than before. Sara took up the cool cloth and resumed her vigil, her mind full of thoughts about the cowboy with kind eyes and a generous heart. The afternoon passed slowly. Sara followed the doctor's instructions carefully, administering medicines at the prescribed times and keeping her mother as cool and comfortable as possible. She made several trips to the spring house for fresh cold water, and each time she returned, she found herself listening for the sound of boots on the stairs, hoping Sam would return early. True to his word, Garrett appeared in the late afternoon with a pot of rich beef broth and fresh bread. The saloon owner was a rough man with a scarred face and a gruff demeanor, but he had always been fair with Sara and her mother. "Reed paid for meals for you and your ma for the next week," Garrett said, setting the pot down. "Said to bring up broth for her and proper food for you 3 times a day. Also said if you need anything else, I am to put it on his account." "That is too much," Sara protested. Garrett shrugged. "Take it up with him. Man seemed pretty determined. Also said to tell you he will be by after supper to check on things." He looked at Elizabeth, his expression softening slightly. "She going to make it?" "I hope so," Sara said quietly. "She is tough, your ma. I seen that when you two first came here. She will pull through." He moved toward the door, then added, "You landed yourself a good one there with Reed. He is known around these parts as someone you can count on. Honest and hardworking. Could do a lot worse." "He is just being kind," Sara said quickly. Garrett chuckled. "Keep telling yourself that, girl. I seen the way he looked at you, like you was the only person in the room." He left before Sara could respond, his heavy footsteps echoing down the stairs. Sara managed to get some of the broth into her mother, a few spoonfuls at a time, and Elizabeth seemed to rest easier afterward. Sara forced herself to eat some of the bread and broth, knowing she needed to keep her strength up. The food helped clear her head, and she realized how close to collapse she had been. As the sun began to set, painting the sky outside their small window in shades of orange and pink, Sara heard the now familiar sound of Sam's boots on the stairs. Her heart gave an unexpected flutter, and she quickly patted her hair, trying to make herself presentable, before realizing what she was doing and feeling foolish. Sam knocked softly before entering. He had cleaned up since earlier, his face freshly shaved and his shirt clean, though he still wore the same worn trousers and boots. "How is she doing?" "Better, I think," Sara said. "The fever seems slightly lower and she managed some broth." Sam moved to the bedside, checking Elizabeth's forehead with practiced ease. "That is good, real good, and you eat something." "Yes, thank you for arranging that with Mr. Garrett. You did not have to do that." "Had to make sure you stayed healthy too," Sam said simply. He pulled a chair close to the bedside and sat down. "Mind if I stay a while? I can help with the next round of medicines." "You do not have to do that," Sara said. "You must be tired from working all day." "I am fine," Sam said. "And honestly, I would like the company." Gets lonely sometimes, living alone on the ranch. Sara sat in the other chair and they fell into an easy silence, both watching Elizabeth sleep. After a while, Sara asked, "You said you have been at the Double R Ranch for 3 years. Where were you before that?" "Texas, mostly. After my father died, I sold our ranch. Could not keep it running alone and it held too many sad memories. I drifted for a while, working different ranches, learning the trade properly. Eventually ended up here in New Mexico territory and found work with the Reynolds family. They have been good to me and I like it here. Hot Springs is a decent town, despite what you might have experienced." "I am sure it is," Sara said quietly. "People have their own troubles. I cannot blame them for not helping strangers." "Being strangers is no excuse for being heartless," Sam said firmly. "But there are good people here too. You will see that once things settle down." "How did your father die, if you do not mind me asking?" Sam was quiet for a moment. "Grief, mostly. After Ma died, he just gave up. Started drinking. Stopped caring about the ranch. Stopped caring about much of anything. One morning I found him in his bed. Doctors said his heart gave out, but I always figured he died of a broken heart. They had been together since they were 16, my parents. 25 years of marriage, and he could not figure out how to live without her." "That is terrible," Sara said softly. "I am so sorry." "It was a long time ago," Sam said, though his eyes held old pain. "I was angry at him for a while for giving up, for leaving me alone. But I understand better now. Some people love so deep that losing that love breaks something inside them that cannot be fixed." Sara looked at her mother's sleeping form. "My father was like that. After he died in the mine collapse, my mother was devastated. But she had me to take care of, so she kept going. I sometimes wonder if she would have given up too if she had been alone." "She is lucky to have you," Sam said. "And you are lucky to have each other." They talked quietly as the evening deepened into night, sharing stories about their lives, their families, their hopes for the future. Sara learned that Sam was 25 years old, that he dreamed of having his own ranch someday, that he loved horses more than cattle, but understood the economics of ranching. Sam learned that Sara had wanted to be a teacher before her father died, that she loved to read whenever she could get her hands on books, that she missed Colorado, but had hoped New Mexico territory would offer a fresh start. When it came time for the next dose of medicine, Sam helped Sara lift her mother and coax the medicine down her throat. Elizabeth woke briefly, her eyes clearer than they had been, and she managed a small smile when she saw Sam. "Still here," she murmured. "Yes, madam," Sam said gently. "Making sure you get better." "You are a good man, Samuel Raid," Elizabeth said, her voice weak but sincere. "Just Sam, madam, and you concentrate on getting well." After Elizabeth drifted back to sleep, Sam stood and stretched. "I should head back to the ranch, got to be up early for work. But I will come by tomorrow afternoon to check on you both." "You do not have to keep doing this," Sara said, though part of her hoped he would ignore her protest. "I know I do not have to," Sam said, his eyes meeting hers with an intensity that made her breath catch. "I want to." He left then, and Sara sat in the quiet room, her heart beating faster than it should, her mind replaying the way he had looked at her when he said those last words. She tried to tell herself that Sam was just being kind, that there was nothing more to it than simple human decency. But her heart was not listening to her head, and as she settled in for the long night of caring for her mother, she found herself already looking forward to the next afternoon when Sam would return. The days that followed fell into a pattern. Sara cared for her mother around the clock, following Dr. Murray's instructions faithfully. Elizabeth's fever began to break on the 3rd day, and though she was still very weak, she could stay awake for longer periods and keep down more substantial food. Sam came every afternoon after his work at the ranch. bringing fresh supplies, helping with the heavier tasks like changing the bedding, and keeping Sara company during the long evenings. Sara found herself living for those afternoon visits. Sam was easy to talk to, patient and kind, with a quiet sense of humor that made her laugh even in the midst of worry. He told her stories about the ranch, about the horses he was training, about the vast New Mexico landscape that he clearly loved. Sara told him about the books she had read, about her dreams of teaching, about the small moments of beauty she had found even in their difficult circumstances. They never spoke about what was growing between them, but it was there in every glance, every accidental touch, every moment of shared silence. Sara noticed the way Sam's eyes softened when he looked at her, the way he always made sure she ate enough, the way he positioned himself between her and anyone who came to the door. And she knew her own feelings were written plainly on her face, the way her breath quickened when she heard his footsteps, the way she found excuses to stand close to him, the way his opinion mattered more than anyone else's. Elizabeth noticed too, despite her illness. When Sam was not there, she would look at Sara with knowing eyes and smile. "He is courting you, you know." "Mama, he is just being helpful," Sara would protest, though her blush gave her away. "A man does not visit a woman every single day unless he has intentions," Elizabeth said. "And those are good intentions. I see it in how he looks at you." "It is too soon," Sara said weakly. "We barely know each other." "Your father and I knew we would marry 3 days after we met," Elizabeth countered. "When you know, and I can see that you know." Sara could not deny it. Somewhere between that first desperate meeting in the general store and these quiet evenings sitting by her mother's bedside, she had fallen completely in love with Sam Raid. She loved his kindness, his strength, his gentle humor, and his unwavering presence. She loved the way he treated her mother with respect, the way he never made Sara feel like a burden, the way he looked at her like she was precious. But she also owed him a tremendous debt, and that complicated everything. How could she trust her feelings when she was so grateful to him? How could she know if what she felt was genuine love, or just the natural attachment that came from being rescued? And more importantly, how could she ever be sure that Sam's feelings were real when she had nothing to offer him but debts and troubles? On the 7th day after Sam had first helped her, Dr. Murray came to check on Elizabeth and pronounced her on the road to recovery. "Keep up with the medicines for another week. Make sure she eats well and gets plenty of rest, but she should be fine. You did good work, Miss Bennett." "Mr. Reed did the good work," Sara said. "I just followed instructions." "Well, whoever deserves the credit, your mother is a lucky woman." Dr. Murray packed up his bag. "There is no charge for today's visit. Mr. Reed paid enough upfront to cover several visits." After the doctor left, Elizabeth insisted on sitting up in a chair for the first time in over a week. Sara arranged pillows and made her mother as comfortable as possible, thrilled to see color returning to her face. "Sara, sit down," Elizabeth said, patting the edge of her bed. "We need to talk." Sara sat, suddenly nervous at her mother's serious tone. "What is wrong? Are you feeling worse?" "I am feeling much better, which is why we need to have this conversation. Samuel Reed has spent a considerable amount of money on us, money we need to pay back." "I know, Mama." "I have been thinking about that. As soon as you are strong enough, I will find work. Whatever it takes, I will pay him back every cent." "That could take years," Elizabeth said gently. "The medicine alone was $15. Then there is the doctor's fee, the food for a week, and all the other supplies he has provided. We are looking at least $30, probably more." Sara felt her stomach sink. $30 might as well have been $300. "I will find a way." "Or," Elizabeth said carefully, "you could consider that the man is not just helping us out of charity." "What do you mean?" Sara, you are 19 years old. You are beautiful, kind, and intelligent. Sam Reed is a good man with steady work and prospects. He is clearly smitten with you. If he were to court you properly, and if things led to marriage, well, the debt would become a family matter rather than a transaction. Sara stood abruptly. Mama, I cannot marry a man just to clear a debt. That would be no better than selling myself. That is not what I am suggesting, Elizabeth said patiently. I am saying that the man is already courting you, whether either of you has acknowledged it yet. I am saying that if feelings exist on both sides, which they clearly do, then perhaps you should allow those feelings to develop naturally without letting pride or worry about money get in the way. But how can I trust my feelings? Sara asked desperately. How do I know I am not just grateful? How do I know this is real? Sara, come here. Elizabeth waited until Sara sat back down, then took her daughter's hands. Listen to me carefully. I have watched you with that young man for a week now. The way you light up when he arrives, the way you laugh at his stories, the way you watch him when you think he is not looking. That is not gratitude, that is love. But I barely know him. You know what matters. You know he is kind, honest, and hardworking. You know he treats people with respect and dignity. You know he does what is right even when it costs him. What else do you need to know? I do not want him to think I am using him for his money, Sara whispered. Then tell him how you feel, Elizabeth said simply. Be honest. If he is the man I think he is, he will understand. And Sara, I think he is wrestling with the same doubts. I have seen him looking at you when he thinks no one is watching. That man is head over heels in love with you, but he is probably worried that you feel obligated to him because of the money. Sara thought about this, hope and fear warring in her chest. What if I tell him and he does not feel the same way? Then at least you will know, Elizabeth said. But I do not think that is what will happen. I think that young man has been waiting for the right moment to say something himself. That evening when Sam arrived, Sara's heart was pounding so hard she was sure he could hear it. He looked tired, his face sun-darkened and his clothes dusty from a long day's work, but his eyes lit up when he saw Elizabeth sitting in the chair. Mrs. Bennett, you are looking much better, he said warmly. I am feeling much better, thanks to you, Elizabeth said. Sara, why do not you walk Sam downstairs? I am sure he would appreciate the company and I need to rest my eyes for a bit. It was the least subtle suggestion imaginable, and both Sara and Sam knew it. Sam's lips quirked in a small smile. I would appreciate that if you do not mind, Sara. Of course, Sara said, her voice higher than normal. They walked down the stairs in silence, and Sara led him out the back door of the saloon into the evening air. The sun was setting, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and purple, and the heat of the day was finally breaking. They walked without speaking for a few moments, heading toward the edge of town where the buildings gave way to open land. Your mother seems to be recovering well, Sam said finally. Yes, thanks to you. Sam, I need to talk to you about that. He tensed slightly. All right. Sara took a deep breath, trying to gather her courage. You have spent so much money on us. The medicine, the doctor, the food, everything. I need to know how much the total is so I can figure out how to pay you back. Sara, I told you, you do not need to worry about that. But I do worry about it, Sara said firmly. I am not the kind of person who can just accept that kind of debt and not feel the weight of it. Please, I need to know the amount. Sam was quiet for a moment, then said, about $35 all told. Sara felt dizzy. That was more than she had feared. $35, that will take me months to earn, maybe longer. There is no rush, you can take as long as you need. But why? Sara burst out, stopping and turning to face him. Why did you do all this? You do not even know us. We are strangers who appeared in your town and brought nothing but problems. Why would you spend so much money, Spend so much time on people you owe nothing to? Sam looked at her, his expression intense. You really do not know. No, I do not know. So please tell me, because it is driving me mad trying to understand. Because from the moment I saw you on your knees in that store, begging for your mother's life with tears streaming down your face and your heart breaking right there for anyone to see, I knew you were someone special, Sam said, his voice rough with emotion. Because when I helped you stand up and I looked into your eyes, something in my chest just clicked into place, like a piece of me I did not know was missing suddenly was found. Sarah's breath caught, and she could not look away from his eyes, dark and intense in the fading light. I came back every day not because I felt obligated, but because I could not stay away, Sam continued. Because every minute with you felt right in a way nothing has felt right since I lost my family. Because you are brave and kind and so damn beautiful that sometimes I forget how to breathe when I look at you. Sam, Sarah whispered, but he was not finished. I know the timing is terrible. I know you have worries about money and obligations, and I know this probably seems like it is happening too fast. But Sarah, I am 25 years old, and I have never felt about anyone the way I feel about you. If you want me to walk away and give you space, I will. If you want to pay me back every cent and have that be the end of it, I will accept that. But I needed you to know the truth. I am not helping you out of charity. I am helping you because I am falling in love with you, and I cannot seem to stop. Sarah felt tears welling in her eyes, but these were not tears of desperation or fear. These were tears of joy, of relief, of overwhelming emotion that came from hearing the words she had desperately hoped to hear but had been afraid to believe. You are falling in love with me, she asked, her voice shaking. I think I might already be all the way there, Sam admitted. Have been since about day 3. I thought I was going mad, Sarah said, laughing through her tears. I thought I was confusing gratitude with something else, or that I was just desperate and lonely and you were kind. But it is not that at all, is it? What is it then? Sam asked, stepping closer. It is love, Sarah said simply. I am in love with you, Sam Reed. I think I have been since you helped me stand up in that store and looked at me like I mattered. Sam reached out slowly, giving her plenty of time to pull away, and cupped her face gently in his hands. His palms were rough with calluses, warm against her skin, and Sarah leaned into his touch like a flower turning toward the sun. Can I kiss you? He asked, his voice low. Yes, Sarah breathed. Please. He kissed her gently, carefully, like she was something precious that might break. His lips were soft against hers, and Sarah felt the kiss all the way down to her toes. She reached up and gripped his shirt, pulling him closer, and the kiss deepened, all the emotion of the past week pouring into this one perfect moment. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Sam rested his forehead against hers. I want to court you properly. I want to do this right. We probably should have started with the courting before the declarations of love, Sarah said, smiling. We did things a little backward, Sam agreed, smiling back. But I do not regret a single moment. Neither do I. They walked back toward the saloon hand in hand, and Sarah felt like she was floating. The worries about money and debt still existed, but they seemed less overwhelming now. They would figure it out together. I should tell you, Sam said as they reached the back door. The Reynolds family, my employers, are good people. Mrs. Reynolds has been asking me to bring you and your mother to the ranch for Sunday dinner. She heard about what happened and wants to meet you both. Would you be comfortable with that? That sounds wonderful, Sarah said. Once Mama is strong enough to travel. Next week maybe, Sam suggested. I will bring a wagon to make it comfortable for her. I would like that. Sam kissed her once more quickly, then reluctantly let her go. I will see you tomorrow. Tomorrow, Sarah agreed, watching him walk away into the gathering darkness before floating back up the stairs to her mother. Elizabeth took one look at Sara's face and smiled. "I take it the talk went well." "Mama, he is in love with me," Sara said, sitting on the edge of her mother's bed. "He said so, and I told him I love him too." "I could have told you that a week ago," Elizabeth said, but her eyes were warm and happy. "I am glad you two finally figured it out. He is a good man, Sara." "You chose well. I did not choose him. He appeared like an answer to a prayer." "Sometimes that is the same thing," Elizabeth said. "Now help me back to bed. I am exhausted, but I am going to sleep happy tonight knowing my daughter is in love with a good man." Over the next 2 weeks, Elizabeth continued to improve steadily. Sara split her time between caring for her mother and spending every available moment with Sam. He came by every evening after work, and on Sunday, he arrived with a wagon as promised to take them to the Double R Ranch for dinner. The Reynolds family welcomed them warmly. Robert and Martha Reynolds were in their 50s, with 3 grown sons who worked the ranch alongside their father. Martha was a plump, cheerful woman who immediately took Elizabeth under her wing, insisting she rest in the comfortable parlor while the meal was prepared. "Sam has told us so much about you both," Martha said, her eyes twinkling. "We are so glad your mother is recovering, Miss Bennett." "Please call me Sara, and thank you for your kindness in inviting us. Any friend of Sam's is welcome here," Martha said. "That boy is like family to us. Best ranch hand we have ever had and one of the finest men I know. You are lucky to have caught his eye." Sara blushed. "I think I am the lucky one." "That is what Sam says about you," Martha said with a laugh. "You two are quite the pair. Come, help me in the kitchen and we can get to know each other better." Sara spent a pleasant afternoon helping Martha prepare the meal and getting to know the Reynolds family. They were exactly as Sam had described, warm and welcoming with easy humor and genuine kindness. The 3 Reynolds sons teased Sam mercilessly about being lovesick, but it was done with affection, and Sam took it in good stride. The dinner was delicious, a feast of roasted beef, fresh vegetables from Martha's garden, and apple pie for dessert. Elizabeth ate with an appetite that thrilled Sara, her color better than it had been in weeks. Watching her mother laugh at Robert's stories, seeing her relaxed and happy, Sara felt profound gratitude for everything that had led them to this moment. After dinner, Sam asked Sara if she wanted to see the ranch. They walked together in the golden afternoon light, and Sam showed her the cattle grazing on the rolling hills, the horses in the corral, and finally, the small house he called home. It was a simple structure, just 2 rooms with a small porch, but it was well built and carefully maintained. "I have been saving money," Sam told her, standing on the porch with Sara's hand in his. "I want to buy my own land someday, build a real ranch. I have my eye on a section about 10 miles from here, good grazing land with a creek running through it. Another year or 2 of saving and I should have enough for a down payment." "That sounds wonderful," Sara said. Sam turned to face her, his expression serious. "Sara, I know we have not been courting very long, but I am sure about my feelings. I want a future with you. I want to build that ranch with you beside me, raise a family together, grow old together. I am not asking you to marry me tomorrow, but I am telling you my intentions. I want you to know what I am hoping for." Sara's heart felt so full she thought it might burst. "I want that too, all of it." "Then we will take our time and do this right," Sam said, pulling her close. "But know that you are my future, Sara Bennett. You are everything I want." They stayed on the porch until the sun began to set, talking about their dreams, making plans, building the foundation of the life they would share. When they returned to the main house, Martha invited Elizabeth to stay the night, as the trip back to town might be too taxing. "We have plenty of room," Martha insisted. And I would love the company. Besides, the girls can share the guest room and we will have breakfast together in the morning." Elizabeth accepted gratefully, and that night, lying in a comfortable bed in the Reynolds home with her mother sleeping peacefully in the bed beside her, Sara felt happiness so complete it almost frightened her. Everything had changed so quickly. Just 3 weeks ago, she had been desperate and alone, watching her mother die with no hope in sight. Now her mother was recovering. She was falling in love with the most wonderful man she had ever met, and she had found friends who felt like family. The next few months passed in a blur of happiness. Elizabeth regained her strength and found work sewing for a dressmaker in town. Sara got a job helping at the schoolhouse, assisting the teacher and working with the younger children. It was not quite the teaching position she had dreamed of, but it was a start, and she loved the work. She saw Sam every day. He came by the schoolhouse after work to walk her home, and they spent their evenings together, talking and laughing and growing deeper in love. They attended church socials together, went on picnics, and spent Sunday dinners at the Reynolds ranch. The whole town knew they were courting, and most people seemed happy for them, though a few busybodies clucked their tongues about how quickly things were moving. Sara made a point of paying Sam back a little bit each week from her earnings. He tried to refuse the money, but she insisted, and eventually he accepted it with good grace, understanding that it was important to her. After 4 months, she had paid back half the debt, and she was determined to finish paying it before she would even consider discussing marriage. Sam understood her need for independence, though he made it clear he was ready to marry her whenever she would have him. "I do not care about the money, Sara. I never did. But I respect that you need to do this, so I will wait as long as it takes." In October, Elizabeth announced she had saved enough to rent a small house on the edge of town. It was modest, just 3 rooms, but it had a real kitchen and a yard, and it felt like a palace compared to the room above the saloon. "You should stay at the saloon," Sara said. "Save your money, I do not mind it there." "You are 19 years old and courting," Elizabeth said firmly. "You need a proper parlor to receive your gentleman caller, not a room in a saloon. Besides, I am tired of the noise. I want a home again." They moved into the little house on a Saturday, and Sam brought several of the Reynolds men to help. They moved the few possessions Sara and Elizabeth owned, along with some furniture Martha insisted on giving them. By evening, the house looked cozy and welcoming, and Martha had stocked the kitchen with food enough for a week. That evening, Sara and Sam sat on the front porch of the little house while Elizabeth was inside preparing dinner. The air was cool, autumn settling into the territory, and Sara leaned against Sam's shoulder, feeling content. "I have been thinking," Sam said, playing with her fingers. "By Christmas, you will have paid off the debt completely, right?" "Yes, probably by the middle of December if I keep up with my payments." "And once that is done, would you consider marrying me?" Sara sat up and looked at him. "Are you asking me?" "Not officially, not yet. But I am asking if you would be open to it. Because, Sara, I have been patient, and I will keep being patient if that is what you need, but I want to marry you. I want to make you my wife and start our life together." "I want that too," Sara said. "But Sam, where would we live?" "You have your house at the ranch, but that is just 1 room, and I do not want to leave Mama alone in this house." "I have been thinking about that too," Sam said. "What if your mother came to live with us? The section of land I want to buy has room for 2 houses. We could build a small place for your mother close to our main house. She could have her independence but still be close enough that we could take care of her." Sara felt tears pricking her eyes. "You would do that, of course. She is your mother, and she will be my family too when we marry. I do not expect you to choose between us. We will make room for everyone." "Have I told you today that I love you?" Sara asked, cupping his face in her hands. Not in the last hour, Sam said, smiling. I love you, Samuel Reed. And yes, once I have paid my debt, I will marry you whenever you want. Sam kissed her thoroughly, and when they broke apart, he was grinning. Christmas, then. We can get married at Christmas. That is only 2 months away, Sara said, laughing. We cannot plan a wedding that quickly. Why not? We do not need anything fancy, just family and friends and a preacher. Martha will help with the rest. She has been asking me when I am going to propose for the last month. You told her you were going to ask me. I told everyone, Sam admitted. I have been waiting for the right moment, and this felt right. Sara kissed him again, happiness bubbling up inside her. Then Christmas it is. I will start sewing my wedding dress. They went inside to tell Elizabeth, who burst into tears of joy and immediately began planning everything. The next day at church, Sam officially asked Sara to marry him in front of the whole congregation, producing a simple gold ring that had belonged to his mother. Sara Bennett, would you do me the honor of becoming my wife? He asked, kneeling before her on the church steps. Yes, Sara said, tears streaming down her face. Yes, 1,000 times yes. The congregation erupted in applause, and Martha Reynolds started crying and hugging everyone in sight. The next 2 months were a whirlwind of preparation. Sara finished paying off her debt to Sam in early December, handing him the last payment with a sense of triumph. Now we are even, she said. No, Sam said, pulling her close. Now we are together. That is better than even. Martha helped Sara sew her wedding dress, a simple but beautiful gown of white cotton with lace at the collar and cuffs. Elizabeth made the wedding cake, and the Reynolds family offered to host the wedding at their ranch. The whole town was invited, and it seemed like everyone planned to come. On Christmas Eve, 1878, Sara Bennett stood in the Reynolds parlor in her white dress, clutching a bouquet of winter greenery and white ribbons, waiting for her cue to walk out and marry the man she loved. Elizabeth stood beside her, tears already streaming down her face. You look beautiful, sweetheart, Elizabeth said, adjusting Sara's veil one more time. Your father would be so proud. I wish he could be here, Sara said softly. He is here, Elizabeth assured her, and he is happy for you. Sam is exactly the kind of man your father would have wanted for you. The music started. A simple hymn played on Martha's piano, and it was time. Sara walked out of the parlor into the main room where chairs had been arranged in rows, and the fireplace was decorated with pine boughs and white ribbons. At the front of the room, Sam stood beside the preacher, looking nervous and excited and more handsome than Sara had ever seen him in his best suit. His eyes locked on hers as she walked down the aisle on her mother's arm, and Sara saw her whole future in those warm brown eyes. Elizabeth placed Sara's hand in Sam's, kissed her daughter's cheek, and stepped back to take her seat. The preacher began the ceremony, but Sara barely heard the words. She was too focused on Sam, on the way he was looking at her like she was the most precious thing in the world, on the feel of his hand holding hers, strong and sure. When it came time for the vows, Sam spoke as clearly, his voice full of emotion. I, Samuel Reed, take you, Sara Bennett, to be my lawfully wedded wife. I promise to love you, honor you, and cherish you in sickness and in health, in good times and bad, for all the days of my life. Sara spoke her own vows through happy tears. I, Sara Bennett, take you, Samuel Reed, to be my lawfully wedded husband. I promise to love you, honor you, and cherish you in sickness and in health, in good times and bad, for all the days of my life. Sam slid the gold ring onto her finger, and Sara placed a matching band on his, a ring she had bought with her final wages from the schoolhouse. The preacher pronounced them husband and wife, and Sam kissed her as the room erupted in cheers and applause. The celebration that followed was joyful and loud, with food and dancing and laughter that lasted well into the night. Sam never left Sarah's side, his arm around her waist, both of them grinning so hard their faces hurt. As the party wound down and guests began to leave, Martha pulled them both aside. "We have a wedding gift for you," she said, her eyes twinkling. "Robert and I have been talking, and we know Sam wants to buy his own land. Well, that section he has his eye on, the one with the creek. We bought it. It is ours now, and we are giving it to you both as a wedding present." Sarah gasped, and Sam looked stunned. "Martha, we cannot accept that. It is too much." "It is already done," Robert said, stepping up beside his wife. "The papers are filed. Consider it payment for 5 years of loyal service and an investment in our extended family. You are like a son to us, Sam, and now Sarah is like a daughter. We want you to have the land. We will help you build the houses come spring," Martha added. "The boys are already planning it. But for tonight, we prepared Sam's house for you both. It is not much for a honeymoon, but it is private." Sarah hugged Martha tightly, too overcome to speak. Sam shook Robert's hand, his eyes suspiciously bright. They thanked the Reynolds family profusely, said goodbye to Elizabeth, who was staying at the ranch for the night, and finally headed to Sam's small house on the property. Someone had decorated the door with ribbons and pine boughs, and inside there were candles lit and fresh flowers on the table despite the winter season. Sarah recognized Martha's handiwork and made a mental note to thank her again in the morning. Sam closed the door behind them, and suddenly they were alone, husband and wife, the rest of their lives stretching out before them. He pulled Sarah into his arms, holding her close, and she rested her head against his chest, hearing the steady beat of his heart. "I still cannot believe this is real," she whispered. 6 months ago, I was on my knees begging for medicine, and now I am married to the most wonderful man I have ever known." "I am the lucky one," Sam said, tilting her chin up to look at him. "You are everything I never knew I was looking for." "I love you so much, Sarah Reed." "Sarah Reed," she repeated, smiling at the sound of her new name. "I love you too, Sam, so very much." He kissed her then, soft and sweet and full of promise, and Sarah felt complete in a way she had never felt before. Whatever challenges the future held, they would face them together. That night they talked for hours, cuddled together in the small bed, making plans for their future. They would build their house in the spring, close to the creek where the land was flat and fertile. They would plant a garden, raise horses, start a family. They would build a second small house for Elizabeth, close enough that she could walk over for dinner every night if she wanted. "How many children do you want?" Sarah asked, her head resting on Sam's chest. "As many as you want to give me," Sam replied. "I came from a small family, just me. I always wanted a house full of kids." "Me too," Sarah said. "I hated being an only child. I want our children to have brothers and sisters." "Then that is what we will have," Sam said, kissing the top of her head. "A house full of children and a life full of love." They made love for the first time that night, gentle and tender, learning each other with patient hands and whispered endearments. Afterward, Sarah lay in Sam's arms, feeling cherished and safe and happier than she had ever imagined possible. Spring came early to New Mexico territory that year, and with it came the flurry of building. The Reynolds men, along with several neighbors and friends, gathered to help Sam and Sarah build their house. It was larger than Sam's little one-room place, with a real bedroom, a parlor, a kitchen, and a loft upstairs that would eventually be bedrooms for children. Elizabeth's house went up next, a cozy 2-room cottage with a porch where she could sit and sew in the evenings. She moved in by April, and Sarah loved having her mother so close. They fell into an easy routine, with Elizabeth coming over most mornings to help with chores and share coffee, and Sara walking over most evenings to check on her mother. In May, Sara discovered she was pregnant. She told Sam one evening as they sat on their porch watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant colors. "I am going to have a baby," she said simply. Sam turned to her, his face full of wonder. "You are sure?" "I am sure. The doctor confirmed it yesterday. He thinks the baby will come in January." Sam pulled her into his arms, laughing and crying at the same time. "We are going to be parents. Sara, we are going to have a baby." "Are you happy?" she asked, though she could see the answer written all over his face. "Happy does not even begin to cover it," Sam said. "I am thrilled. Terrified, but thrilled." They told Elizabeth that night, and she burst into tears of joy, already planning blankets and tiny clothes. The news spread through their small community, and everyone was excited for them. Martha took Sara under her wing, sharing advice about pregnancy and childbirth, making sure Sara took care of herself. The months passed in a haze of happiness. Sara's belly grew round with their child, and Sam was endlessly fascinated by it, spending hours with his hand on her stomach, feeling the baby kick and move. He talked to the baby every night, telling stories about the ranch, about the horses, about the family waiting to meet him or her. "What if it is a boy?" Sam asked one night in early January as Sara's due date approached. "What should we name him?" "I have been thinking about that," Sara said. "What about Thomas? After Tom Whitfield, the man who helped you when you needed it most." "Your story about him has always stayed with me." Sam's eyes grew bright. "I would like that. Tom Reed, he would have liked that too." "And if it is a girl?" Sara asked. "Grace," Sam said immediately, "because she will be a gift of grace just like her mother." Sara went into labor on a cold January evening during a snowstorm. Sam rode through the storm to fetch the midwife while Elizabeth stayed with Sara, keeping her calm and comfortable. The labor was long and difficult, lasting through the night and into the next morning, but finally, as the sun broke through the clouds, Sara gave birth to a healthy baby boy. Sam held his son for the first time with tears streaming down his face. "He is perfect. Sara, he is absolutely perfect." "He looks just like you," Sara said tiredly, watching her husband cradle their son with gentle hands. They named him Thomas Samuel Reed, and he became the center of their world. Sam was a devoted father, getting up for midnight feedings, changing diapers without complaint, spending hours rocking his son to sleep. Elizabeth was a doting grandmother, always ready to hold the baby or sing to him. The seasons turned, and Tom grew from a baby into a toddler with his father's dark hair and his mother's blue eyes. Sara fell pregnant again when Tom was 2, and this time she gave birth to a daughter they named Grace Elizabeth. 2 years after Grace came another son, James, and 2 years after that, a second daughter, Rose. Their house was full of noise and laughter and love, exactly as they had dreamed. Sam expanded their horse breeding operation, gaining a reputation for training the finest horses in the territory. Sara taught the older children their letters and numbers, already planning for when they would attend the school in town. Elizabeth lived with them until she passed away peacefully in her sleep at the age of 62, surrounded by the grandchildren she adored. Sam and Sara mourned her deeply, but found comfort in knowing she had lived long enough to see them happy and settled, to see her grandchildren grow. The years passed in a blur of seasons and celebrations, of hard work and simple joys. Sam and Sara grew older together, their love deepening with each passing year. They faced challenges, of course, years when the weather was bad and money was tight, times when the children were sick or troubled, but they faced everything together, their partnership as strong as iron. On their 25th wedding anniversary, their children threw them a party at the ranch, now expanded and prosperous. Tom was 24 and married with a child of his own. Grace was 22 and engaged to a young rancher from a neighboring property. James was 20 and working as a deputy in town. Rose was 18 and planning to go to college to become a teacher, fulfilling the dream her mother had once had. Sam and Sara stood on the porch of the home they had built together, watching their children and grandchildren celebrate, and Sara leaned into her husband's side just as she had done so many times before. "You remember the first time we stood on a porch together?" Sam asked. "At the Reynolds Ranch, when I told you I wanted to build a future with you." "I remember every moment of that day," Sara said. "I was so nervous, so full of hope and fear all mixed together." "I knew then that you were my future," Sam said, "and I was right. You are my everything, Sara." "You always have been." "And you are mine," Sara replied. "From the moment you helped me stand up in that store, you have been my hero, my partner, my love. I cannot imagine my life without you." Sam kissed her, soft and sweet, just as their grandchildren ran up to pull them back to the party. They went willingly, hand in hand, surrounded by the family they had built and the love they had nurtured for 25 years. Years later, when they were both in their 70s, Sara and Sam would sit on that same porch and watch the sunset together, still holding hands, still deeply in love. They had lived a good life, full of purpose and meaning. They had raised 4 children who had gone on to have families of their own. They had built a successful ranch that would be passed down through generations. But more than any of that, they had loved each other with a love that never wavered, never dimmed, never faltered. From that desperate moment in the general store to their golden years together, their love had been the foundation of everything they built. Sam passed away peacefully in his sleep at the age of 76, Sara beside him holding his hand just as she had held it for over 50 years. He died happy, surrounded by family, his life full and complete. Sara followed him 2 years later, and they were buried side by side on the hill overlooking their ranch, beneath a tree they had planted together in their first year of marriage. Their headstone was simple, bearing both their names and a single inscription that told the whole story of their love. Together always. The ranch continued through their children and grandchildren, a thriving testament to the love and hard work of 2 people who found each other in desperate circumstances and built something beautiful together. And in Hot Springs, New Mexico, their story became legend, the tale of the cowboy who paid for medicine for a stranger's mother and found the love of his life in the process. It was a story told to remind people that kindness matters, that a single act of compassion can change everything, that love can bloom in the most unexpected places. It was a story of hope and faith, of 2 people who saw the best in each other and built a life based on trust, respect, and unwavering devotion. And though Sam and Sara were gone, their love lived on in the family they created, in the land they nurtured, in the values they passed down through generations. They had started with nothing but hope and ended with everything that mattered: love, family, and a life well lived. Their story had begun with a desperate young woman begging for medicine and a kind cowboy willing to help. It ended with a love story for the ages, proof that sometimes the greatest adventures begin with a single act of compassion, and that true love, once found, lasts forever.